Welcome to O-Talkin' with Dave. Put your hands together for the pastor of positivity whose glass is always at least half full. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I am top shelf myself, and today we're going to talk about silence. Did that make you uncomfortable? Man, it used to make me uncomfortable. I don't know why. Silence, I've always been a talker. Go figure. And it's silence has been uncomfortable for me until probably, I'll say, the last 10 years. That awkward silence. And we make silence awkward many times. But when I think back, my role models, Papa was quiet. Very quiet. He was at peace with silence. My dad was quiet. Yeah. But my grandmother, Mama, was a talker and a laugher. There was no silence. And my mom, she's a talker. So I guess that's where I got it. But silence, being comfortable with silence is a gift. Silence isn't empty. It's where the answers are. It's full of answers. And so I want to talk about that a bit. It's really underrated, and for several reasons that we'll talk to. But in the world we're in, it rewards noise. It does. Talking, a slick talker, somebody that a singer, rapping, all of that stuff. I'm not saying that's noise, but it's not silence. All the posts, it's not just words now, it's video. It's that quick fix. It's performances. All of this stuff. The world rewards all of that. And so sometimes silence just feels awkward. Some people are threatened by silence. But silence is not absence. It's really presence. And that's what I have learned to really enjoy. We'll just say for the last decade. I'm 60 now. So my 50s, I think some people are born to enjoy it early on, and they need it, and they crave it. And I really don't know the psychology of what makes some people that way earlier. I was thinking a maturity over time can help you enjoy silence more, and almost respect it and cherish it and look forward to it. That's the way it was for me. It's the space between the notes that makes the music. I was listening to Lionel Richie recently talk about fewer chords so that you could create the melody and let that be heard. So it's less music and more melody. If you're playing music too much, it covers that up and you don't get the beauty of it. You don't get the art. You don't get what you sing along to. I think it's that way in many things. It's where the ideas come from. It's where peace can be restored. And clarity can get a word in edgewise. According to a 2023 study by the National Institute for Mental Health, the average person spends less than 15 minutes a day in total silence. Less than 15 minutes a day. So think about that. Of course, this is when they're awake. 15 minutes a day. Can you imagine 15 minutes of nothing but silence? That's a long time. But per day, that's added up. That's 30 seconds here, a minute there throughout the day. Yet neuroscientists, they say 2 minutes of intentional silence can lower your blood pressure, slow your breathing, and reset the brain's stress circuits. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That is something. And that would be, and what they're talking about here, total silence. It's not the birds singing. It's not the birds chirping. It's not the waves crashing. Silence. That's what it's talking about. Silence is oxygen for your thoughts. But more of us we're running out of oxygen when it comes to this because we fill our lives with so much that our sometimes it's just chaos for the brain. My son can't go. He can go without talking. And that's one of the things I've learned to enjoy, to be able to be in a room with someone and not have to be talking. But he has to have something going on. He has to have music going, or he'll drum. He'll drive you crazy drumming. On the table, on the chair, on the window, whatever's close by. My daughter, she's a talker too. She takes after me. So that silence is something that I really haven't given to my kids. I'm so excited when I'm around them, I talk nonstop. And they'll tell you that. But silence is so important. And the reason it's so valuable, it has a weight to it. It grounds us. It really does. It's that moment after the question and before the answer. I was taught early on, and I was taught the use of silence in business and silence in creating, silence in praying and imploring. It's the silence is when it happens. It's where creativity bursts into the room and has the courage to speak now because there's nothing else going on. It's that pause before the truth comes out. That pause between the question and when the answer is given. I encourage you, and we'll talk to some next steps and how-tos in a bit. If you know the answer, don't just blurt it out. Give it a minute. Give it that suspense. That silence gives whatever you're going to say weight. There was a philosopher that said all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. All of humanity's problems. He said that back in the 1600s. Imagine what he would think of TikTok. Imagine what this dude would think of right now. Just that chaos. And I can see by the look on people's face when they're uncomfortable with too much noise. It's almost a grimace or a frustration. I can't tell you how many times my mom said, "Be quiet, let me think." Oh, she said that a lot. But in negotiation, that's where I learned as a tool. In negotiation, silence is like a scalpel. You use it correctly, and that's a lot of skill in using that. I always heard when you do the close, you give that closing line, first one that speaks loses. The moment you stop talking, the other side will fill in the gap. Usually with information you can use in some way or another, something that you need to know. But mediators, I always heard whenever you create silence, whether it's closing on a deal or maybe even negotiated hostage release or whatever. But whenever silence comes, the first person to speak, actually they've tracked it, loses 70% of the time. In other words, your words can cost you more than your silence ever will. And sometimes the smartest thing you can do is just say nothing. You said it best when you say nothing at all. It's a great song. So it's very important. It's very important to appreciate. So let's just talk about when silence works in communication and negotiation. It works because it creates a sense of pressure, and patience always wins the long game. So some things silence does. 10 things silence does. It triggers honesty. Think about it. People rush to fill silence, often revealing their real motives, fears, or limits. So if you'll be quiet, people will feel that. And people don't like it, so they'll fill it. And if they don't have anything to fill it with, they'll find something. And a lot of times they'll say something they wouldn't say otherwise. So silence triggers honesty. Also, it conveys confidence. When you're comfortable being silent, you appear more certain. You're confident. It's okay. I can take it. I can deal with it. I'm confident enough in myself and what I have said or what I'm going to say. I don't have to say anything right now. I'm fine. I'm good. And that also shows confidence, but it shows control. A person who can sit in silence controls the pace and the tone and the temperature of the room. They do. Some of the meetings I've been in, the most logical, confident, competent people said very little. They picked their time. They picked their words. They did. Control. It also invites reflection. Pausing after a statement and allow it to breathe a little bit and others to digest that statement and not just react. It's a thought starter. It allows them to agree or disagree. It invites meaningful conversation. But if you don't pause and give that silence, it has no room to get in. Also, it clarifies your intent. Silence helps separate emotional noise from logical thought, yours and theirs. So you can just let the weight of the statement linger, and it's not noise. And then that logical thought, which is similar to reflection, but it invites agreement, disagreement, debate, but it clarifies the intent. It can diffuse tension. Silence can calm conflict faster than words can justify or defend. If you say something and it's how you feel, sometimes absolutes are necessary, sometimes they're power drainers, but a confident statement, maybe it pulls things together, and then silence can diffuse tension. It's almost like putting a period on the end of a sentence. In another way, it can amplify meaning. Just a short pause after a powerful statement, that gives your words more gravity. It can give you credibility. And it doesn't have to be awkward silence or a pregnant pause. There's these words, but just a short pause. It gives it a little more weight. And one thing it does, it encourages listening. Communication, it's two things. You got to have a transmitter and then you got to have a receiver. So silence gives the other party a chance to receive what you've said. And so many times we talk so much, we say so many things in a row. This happens in interviews all the time where someone will ask 5 questions before they pause. That person has to remember all 5 and then give answers to all 5. Ask a question and pause for the answer. Yeah, that way there doesn't have to be an interruption. So it encourages listening, which is very important. So a Harvard law study found that negotiators who use strategic pauses increased deal satisfaction and value. It increased it by 18% compared to those who didn't pause. The pause wasn't awkward. It was effective. And then Stephen Covey, I think he's partly the reason for all the Franklin planners and all the seven habits of highly effective people. He said most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Silence can help with that. So let's just talk about 10 situations when silence is necessary or even helpful. After an insult. Oh, I don't get insulted that much. I get some like backhand insults sometimes, but I love that where, if you react immediately with a comeback, which I am a counterpuncher, that's not as effective as silence. Maybe you don't even answer to it. I like the habit of silence, then ask them to say it again, just to clarify, and then ask them, were you trying to hurt me or be funny? and then make them answer, and then don't say anything. I love that. But don't respond immediately after an insult. Silence is very powerful. We've talked about during negotiations. Let others reveal their position. Don't fill the space. Let them talk. Keep talking. It doesn't mean there's total silence, because they're going to fill it, because you're confident with silence. When your emotions are running high, let that adrenaline leave your body before your words do, so you can respond and not react. When emotions are high and there's drama popping, good time for silence. It seems obvious, but so many times we don't do it. After we ask a question, give the truth some time to crawl out of their mouth. And so many times I see it. People will ask an open-ended question, which is good. Closed-ended question is yes or no, because they can say yes or no when it's done. But they'll ask an open-ended question, and before they give them a chance to answer that, what I mean is, and they'll give an example of what. No, ask the question and be quiet before responding to criticism. Yeah, because that silence and that pause will separate ego from opportunity. And criticism, that pause maybe you'll take it and think they're right. A little bit of silence. I tell you, when somebody's grieving, you don't have to find the words. You don't have to say I'm sorry 100 times. Your silence speaks louder than any cliches or comfort words. Your presence is what is needed, not your words. And that's almost always true. Also, when you're creating, I don't know, writing a song, writing a book, deciding what to say, deciding how you're going to approach it. Maybe it's a tough conversation you're going to have. Yeah. Ideas whisper. They don't shout. And so you got to listen. And in order to listen, you got to be silent. You're in a conflict. Silence is like a seatbelt. Yeah. And your words are what's going to be crashing. So silence during conflict, again, it goes back. They're probably going to feel it. One thing that I'm really in tune with now in prayer or meditation, for me, it's more prayer than meditation. And this is not a religious podcast. Sometimes you got to be silent for direction. And I don't care where your direction comes from. I don't care if it's God, Buddha, Confucius, karma, the mermaids that live in my swimming pool. Sometimes you just got to be quiet. That riding in the truck sometimes, turn the music off and just listen. Just listen. And to that silence helps you think. And to me, that's where the words come from. The creating, the common sense, the thinking something through clearly, coming up with an idea you haven't had, or a way around, or a way through. Sometimes you got to be quiet to hear it. And then when you're right, but proving it would cost peace, silence wins battles that words can't. Let them be wrong. Let them find out you're right. You don't have to prove it. Just be quiet. It's so important. So all of these, yeah, Dave, I know it. Yeah, I get it. We know this. But why don't we do it? Why don't we like silence? Yeah. That's a great question. Are we trained to not like it, or do we learn that on our own? I thought of several reasons. We fear what we'll hear from ourselves. We equate silence with weakness or a lack of control. We've been conditioned to fill every gap with sound. I agree. Conditioned, yeah. You think about the house growing up. There's always something going on. There was a TV, there was a radio. Mom would fill silence with humming or singing. There was always something cooking. There was always noise. Always. We have noisemakers at night because we can't sleep in silence. We've been conditioned to fill every gap with sound. Yeah. And then, silence. We worry that silence means disinterest or disapproval. Can't say something good, don't say anything at all. We're going to say something. And we confuse, I believe, maybe subliminally, noise with action, activity. Something's going on. Activity is not productivity. Noise is not necessarily progress. But all those things, I believe they're built in. As kids, what are they trying to do? From the time we come out of the womb, they're trying to get us to laugh or coo or talk. Yeah, I heard the first few years they try to get you to talk and walk, and then the rest of their life they're trying to get you to sit down and shut up. But I think there's a lot of reasons we don't like silence, and we feel it as uncertainty. That's an individual thing. We just said the silent person is more confident. So maybe it is ingrained. But let's think about why it is necessary, even therapeutic. It allows the brain to process and reset. That stat earlier, 2 minutes of uninterrupted silence let your brain reset the stress circuits. 2 minutes. Set your phone for 2 minutes. Can you be silent for 2 minutes? It's going to start, you're going to be thinking about so many things. You're going to look around, but then something may speak to you. It allows the brain to process and reset. And that, with the stress circuits resetting, it lowers your stress hormones. Toward the end of that 2 minutes, creativity may sneak in. It improves listening. And when we listen, what does that improve? Empathy. We're actually listening to what's going on in this person's life. We're listening to that story, not waiting for a pause so we can insert our thought. No, it's so we can empathize and give it some silence and let it grow. And with all of that comes self-awareness. And the more self-aware we are, we're going to be able to regulate our emotions better. And it just deepens our communication. It sounds counterintuitive that, okay, silence deepens communication. Yeah, it lets it sink in because silence adds gravity to what happens after the silence. I enjoyed the silence with my dad before he passed. And a lot of times he had a horrible disease that took over. But just being in the room and him noticing something. Maybe we would sit on the porch and he would notice something. We weren't talking, but I would see him notice something. And then I would look to see what he was looking at. Sometimes he would point so I would see it, but he wouldn't talk because he didn't want to scare it away. And some wildlife would come up in the back and he'd be very quiet. And part of that silence was so that things could happen. And that's a very valuable lesson. Very valuable. Another Harvard Review article noted that leaders who paused before responding are rated 40% higher in perceived intelligence and composure. That's the power of silence. And it adds a punctuation to your presence, to where you are. So it's very necessary. It's therapeutic. It deepens communication. So how do we do it? How do we get it? How do we put some silence into our routine? For some, it's going to be tougher than others. It was tough for me. Now I notice silence. I do. And I appreciate it. But one way, and I do this every day, start your day quiet. Start it quiet. First thing you do shouldn't be pick up your phone and scroll. Shouldn't be hit TikTok or turn the TV on or turn on the radio or whatever. Start it silent. Just breathe for a couple of minutes. It's a great way to start your day. Maybe before you even get out of bed. Because you're going to be tempted to do something that makes noise. Just look at the ceiling for a couple of minutes. Start in silence. I said it earlier, drive with no noise, just for a little while. Once a day. If you know you're 5 minutes from home, all right, turn it off. The next 5 minutes are going to be silent. 5 minutes is great. 2 minutes to reset, 5 minutes. And though you're going to hear car noises and everything, but you're not, that allows you to think. No playlist, no conversation. Nope. Just let your thoughts ride shotgun with you. So that's 2 things. You can do that every day. Also, you can schedule time. You can call it no noise time. No input time would even be better. Yeah. No podcast, no scrolling, other than No Talking with Dave. No scrolling, no talking. Just you in space. Something will happen during that. Something. Pause before every response. Count to 3. That's not. When you got the words to say, 1, 2, 3, boom. 3, or maybe 3 breaths. That's a long time. But it's going to make what you say so much more impactful. And then lastly, end your day with silence. We started it with silence. We experienced some during the day. End it. Because you're reflecting on the day. Maybe your ritual, I don't mean to be crude, maybe the ritual is at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I'm going to brush my teeth. That's what I do. And go sit on the toilet without your phone. 5 minutes. I know, without my phone, how do I know it's 5 minutes? Please. End your day with silence and just think about your day. Think about the best parts of your day. Think about what you're grateful for. And then go to bed. You started with silence, you ended with silence. It's not hard to do, but sometimes you have to be intentionally. Slow down. Take pauses. Silence is that pause between who you were and who you're becoming. You're going to get insight. You're going to be energized. It's going to make you enjoy what's after that pause so much more. It's where your next decision is going to take shape. Peace. You can find peace in silence. It's going to come back during silence. It's going to help you determine how to get it back. And where the noise of the world fades long enough for wisdom to step forward, that's going to happen in silence. And in the end, silence is not absence of sound. It's the presence of your awareness coming to light. So stop, listen, somewhere in the quiet. Life is whispering guidance, your next move, some wisdom, the answer to your questions. It's whispering it. And you can't hear it without silence. You got to be still long enough to hear it. I hope this hits in some way, because the silence is the secret that most people are uncomfortable with. Maybe because you're afraid what you may hear. You may be. I know a lot of people are afraid of clarity because it may be something they don't want to do. Here's the next step. That correct answer may make you uncomfortable. You may not want to do that. Usually the hardest decisions, they're the ones we need to make. And the answers to those hard questions, I believe silence will be a friend to you. All right, hit me up, David@otalks.com, Dave@otalks.com, or just hit the website. There's no music on it, so there's some silence there. The noise in our mind, sometimes they're in our eyes, and sometimes it's taking a break from all this overload, maybe with no sound. So that's another way to embrace silence. But I appreciate you hanging out. Holidays are coming up. I'm terribly excited. So a lot going on. So you can use this silence now to, let's get some rest before the tidal wave hits. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging on. And thanks for talking with Dave. Giddy up.